An area filled with endless forests, frozen lands, and strategic resources. Siberia. This region, which makes up 3/4 of Russia, the largest country in the world by area, stands out not only for its discovered and yet to be discovered natural riches, but also for its low population density. In addition to all this, in recent years, a quiet and unnoticed change has been taking place in the geopolitical landscape of Siberia. The People's Republic of China is settling into the region, seemingly through economic and commercial means, but more deeply in a quiet yet effective way. So how is this happening? Let's take a closer look. China's interest in Siberia cannot be attributed only to the present day. The region remains a historical wound in their collective memory. The Chinese call the period from the First Opium War in 1839 to the end of the Civil War in 1949 the century of humiliation. During this period, they lost many wars against the Westerners and the Japanese. Because of these lost wars, they were forced to sign treaties considered unequal. The Agun Treaty signed with Russia in 1859 and the Peking Treaty signed in 1860 were two of these unequal treaties. Russian general, statesman, and diplomat Nikolai Muravyov-Amursky took advantage of China's difficult situation and paved the way for these treaties to be signed, allowing Russia to seize the lands north of the Amur River without firing a single shot. At the same time, these treaties largely determined the modern border between China and Russia. Although the Beijing administration does not officially claim rights over these lands today, Chinese historians, academics, and interested individuals say that some parts of Siberia still historically belong to them. For example, they still refer to Vladivostok, one of the most important cities in Russia's Far East, by its old Chinese name, Haishenwai. In fact, when we look at it today, we see that the Moscow and Beijing governments are allies, but this alliance is largely based on current circumstances and mutual interests, because until recently, there was a major rivalry between the two countries. After World War II, while they were competing to become the leader of the communist movement in the world, there were fears in the 1960s that they would engage in a major war. Even though what was feared didn't happen, in 1969, due to a border dispute, they experienced a conflict that lasted about 6 months, during which a total of 858 people lost their lives. After the death of Mao Zedong, the tension between them decreased, and after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, it ended completely. With the annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the subsequent invasion movements on the Ukrainian mainland, Russia has been living under major sanctions imposed by the Western world for more than 10 years. This situation is pushing them to become economic and political allies with China. In parallel, the flow of trade between the two countries has accelerated. In 2023, the Russia-China trade volume broke a record, exceeding $240 billion. In 2024, the record neared $244 billion. However, this steadily increasing trade has slowed down recently because Russia has been experiencing payment difficulties. China needs many of Siberia's underground and above-ground resources, especially energy, to support its massive production power. That's why they signed an agreement with Russia in 2014. With this agreement, the natural gas pipeline known as the Power of Siberia was built. This pipeline was built entirely by China. For 30 years, it will deliver Siberia's massive volume of natural gas to China, and additional new energy agreements are also expected to be made. Not only the Power of Siberia pipeline, but also many infrastructure projects in the region, including major railways, logistics centers, highways, and bridges, are being built entirely by China. This region, which is far from the country's heart, Moscow, is being almost completely designed by China. In addition, due to climate change, China is giving special importance to Siberia for access to clean water, which will become even more important in the coming years. Besides water, it is also known that the region contains underground minerals, such as thorium and uranium, which are strategic rare valuable minerals. The permafrost, or frozen soil, that is breaking due to climate change will make it easier to access the underground minerals. On the other hand, the region being covered with dense forests will also provide raw materials for the furniture industry, a sector in which China has difficulty dominating world trade. In addition to all this, the Chinese investment company Zove Resource Investments has leased an area in Siberia about the size of Hong Kong for 49 years to carry out agriculture and livestock farming. This land is actually located in a region with a very harsh climate for agriculture and livestock farming. But the Chinese say they can overcome this with their advanced technology. After rising reactions within the country, the Russian government referred to the leased area as lands untouched by humans since the Soviet Revolution. The most striking feature of Siberia is that despite its vast lands, it is almost empty in terms of population. This already sparsely populated region has also been experiencing significant immigration, in addition to the population decline happening throughout Russia. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russians have created a wave of migration toward the western part of the country, especially to Moscow, in search of better conditions and more humane climate. The Chinese have started to fill the gap left by the declining population. They have especially started to take over the positions left vacant in the economic sphere. Today, many farmers, workers, and investors from the Chinese region of Heilongjiang, which lies south of the Amur River, are crossing to the other side of the border to fill the gaps in the economic life, while at the same time creating a new socio-cultural fabric, especially in the region's rising star city Vladivostok in recent years, as well as in cities like Blagoveshchensk and Chita. In cities, the Chinese restaurants, Chinese markets, hotels, and businesses are increasing day by day. In some areas, signs are being translated into Chinese, and even many locals are trying to learn Chinese for economic opportunities. China's influence is not only economic or strategic, but there is also a cultural transformation taking place. Chinese television shows, social media, scholarships, and language courses are growing in popularity across Siberia. Chinese foundations are funding Russian universities, and institutes for Chinese studies are being established on some campuses. This could also be part of China's strategy to influence the elite classes in the region. As interest in Chinese culture grows among the young population, a new model of soft dominance is emerging in Siberia. From the Kremlin's perspective, this is a worrying development in the medium and long term. Military exercises and official statements between China and Russia generally present a friendly image. However, Russian strategists are seriously concerned about China's military capacity and growth rate. China's increasing defense spending and its modernized army are perceived as a potential threat in Russia's eastern regions, which have weak defense capabilities. In contrast, Russian military presence in eastern Siberia is quite limited. Moscow's defense strategy, which is focused on the west, leaves the region vulnerable. Although the Putin administration seems to be maintaining a strategic partnership with China, some signs show that Moscow is acting cautiously. Due to increasing public backlash in Russia, the sale of land to Chinese investors has been restricted. Some projects have been canceled by local authorities. In addition, efforts are being made to reduce dependence on China by establishing economic and energy partnerships with India, Vietnam, and other Asian countries. However, after the Ukraine war, Russia, cornered by Western sanctions, has come to need Chinese capital more than ever. This situation presents a historic opportunity for China to increase its influence over Siberia. There is even a city built as part of China's long-term plans for Siberia. About 50 years ago, there was nothing here, but today, the city of Heihei, with a population of 1.7 million and still growing, stands in this place. The location of this city is also quite strategic. Located on the banks of the Amur River, directly across from Blagoveshchensk, one of Russia's most important cities in the region, the city of Heihei is like an advanced outpost and logistics center built specifically for Siberia. In 2022, China built a bridge connecting the cities of Heihei and Blagoveshchensk, securing year-round human and trade traffic that was almost cut off during winter due to the freezing of the Amur River. By establishing a commercial free zone here, it has virtually centralized the supply of goods for the entire Siberian region in its own hands. From China's perspective, Siberia is not just a neighboring region. It holds an indispensable place in its growth strategy as a strategic breathing space for energy security, raw material supply, water resources, agricultural lands, and transportation corridors. This sparsely populated area, located just north of China's densely populated regions, potentially provides a suitable ground for new settlement and production centers. In addition, thanks to the Trans-Siberian route and the routes opening to the Arctic, China is seeking alternative trade routes to reach Europe in a shorter time. As of today, it is not possible to talk about a Chinese occupation in Siberia, but a silent population operation carried out through economic, demographic, and cultural means is clearly visible. By establishing a de facto presence in this vast geography, China is becoming one of the key actors in the future of Siberia. This new form of relationship may be an example of the landless occupation of the 21st century, rather than classic imperialism. In an era when borders are being stretched not physically, but through economic and cultural means, China's influence in Siberia continues to grow. The main question for the Kremlin is this: how much longer can Russia turn a blind eye to this silent advance? And what is China's ultimate goal? Is it just energy and resources, or is it a regional redefinition? Over time, the answers to these questions will become clearer, but from today's perspective, Siberia is becoming not only the east of Russia, but also China's strategic gateway to the future.